Meagan Norris is a certified life coach and an attorney. She helps powerful women become the CEO of their divorce so they build a life that is so good that it doesn't make sense. And she has got some serious wisdom for us today. Meagan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tracy. I am so excited to be here.
Me too. I have been waiting to do this interview with you because this claim that you're going to help women build a life so good that it doesn't make sense is really bold. And I want you to tell me more about that.
Yeah, so most women come to me and they think they're in this mindset that their divorce is this horrible setback and this period of hell that they just have to survive and then come to the other side of it and recover from and heal from and the statistics say that single moms and women after divorce will have more responsibility and less money, but at least they'll have their peace, right? And I flip that on its head and I help women harness the adversity of their divorce so that it's a set up for wild success afterwards in whatever capacity they want. Most of my clients, that means I want to make a ton of money in my own name and I want my dream schedule and I want to be able to be the mom to my kids that I want to be. I want to be able to live in a house that is my dream home and eventually call in my dream partner, usually in that order. And I help them make that happen.
Right. You know, there certainly is an element of surviving during the divorce because you've never been through this before. It has rocked you to your core. It's nothing you ever wanted. So, survival mentality, I think, is really important at some point. But then it seems I'm liking your concept that we have to shift to like proactively going for it, right?
Yes. So most of us takes a giant crisis to really get us into the mindset of change and being willing to feel the discomfort that we have to feel in order to make massive changes. And yes, a divorce is going to change and touch pretty much every corner of your life and rock your world, and I actually love it for that reason. So, it takes usually survival in the beginning to get there and be like, "Okay, the pain is more than I'm willing to continue with, like, I this is unbearable, so I'm willing to feel the discomfort that I have to feel to get out of this marriage or go through this divorce, even if it wasn't your idea." And then we have to understand how to harness the power of our nervous systems and manage our survival emotions, the fear, the anxiety, the anger, the rage, the frustration, the injustice. All of those negative emotions are really incredible fuel for you to use to go through your divorce in a way that centers you and your experience, empowers you to make choices that align with your vision and where you want to go, and also teaches you how to manage the quote failures or losses that you will experience along the way because nobody just gets everything that they want every step of the way through their entire divorce. But that's actually a good thing. I teach my clients that when you don't get what you want, it's because the universe is trading up. So it's gonna be even better, but we have to know how to hold that belief through the adversity.
Okay, I've got to play devil's advocate though.
Mhm.
Because I'm thinking about the woman who is sitting out there listening to this saying, "Oh, that's great. We're gonna make lemonade out of the lemons. We're gonna come through this with flying colors and be so much greater afterward." That is for someone else. That is not my reality.
Yes. So I actually do not want anybody to attempt toxic positivity here. That's not what I'm about. This is much more about embracing your your authenticity through the experience. So are you angry? Do you have an opinion? Do you feel like you've been trampled by a herd of horses? Good, let's feel that. Most of us have gotten to this point by not knowing how to really feel our emotions. How do you process the agony, the anguish, the sadness, the the anxiety and the intense fear? How do you allow yourself to feel those things without being victim to them? So we don't need toxic positivity. We have to understand how to allow our negative emotion and then use them for us instead of using them and reacting to them and creating more conflict and costing us more money and engaging in a dynamic and a power dynamic with our ex that isn't serving the process or where we want to go.
Okay, I know you are really passionate about women becoming financially empowered during divorce. And you said that at the beginning, like making, amounts of money that you never thought possible. Why are you so passionate about that?
Because when women believe that they can have wild success in their own name after their divorce, money becomes a tool during the divorce, a negotiation tool that they can use to move the process forward rather than something they have to grip with a death grip because it's a life raft and their security blanket. I want women to be able to insource their safety and security, and then money becomes a supportive tool for them to use in the divorce process. And then afterwards, it's much easier to embrace an abundant mindset and not be, I call it divorce brain, but our divorce brain gets stuck in scarcity, and that sucker will follow us 5 years after the divorce, 10 years after the divorce, and keep us stuck in a lack mindset. And even if you're making millions of dollars, you will never feel like it's enough.
But Megan, I haven't worked in 10 years. I've been raising the kids. I don't even know how I would find a job that's going to pay me enough to cover the rent. What are you talking about?
Then I guess we better get to work. Because yes, you can. I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years when I got divorced. I have a law degree, but I had not practiced in 12 years, and I did not wanna go back to practicing law. I started a business. I was making $0 in my business when I got divorced, and 18 months later, I had crossed the half million dollar mark. Don't tell me that it's impossible. I don't want you to believe it's impossible. You can figure it out. And when someone comes to me and needs that kind of coaching, what I will usually do is point them backwards and say, look at the relationship you just came out of. Look what you have endured and what you have navigated and the plates that you have been spinning and the tabs you've had open in your brain for years. If you can do that, you can figure out what you wanna do and be successful in a way that aligns with the truth of who you are, and I will die on that hill for you. Let's go. But you've got to be willing to consider the possibility that that's true and that that's available to you.
It makes me so sad when women who are going through divorce hear something like you can make more money, you can figure it out, you can find a way, something that you do that's gonna bring a bunch of money in, and they think to themselves, "No, that's for someone else. That's for people who are smarter than me, who are more creative than me, who have more schooling than me," and all the comparisons that we do, and it's I wanna shake them and say, "Stop. You have unique talents and abilities. We just have to figure out what those are."
Exactly. Please do not weaponize someone else's success against yourself. That is not the vibe anymore. Everybody that you are comparing yourself to can be an example of what's possible. And if she can do it, so can you.
I love it. Let's talk about some of the financial blocks that you see women having during their divorces.
Mhm. But the biggest one is that they don't have a vision for their future that they believe in, that they can anchor in during the divorce process. So most people get divorced almost like it's in a vacuum, right? Like the amount of money you're dividing up in the divorce is the end of the money you're ever going to see, and it's the whole retirement bag, right? And so you better get it right. And there's no attention paid to, but what do you want your life to look like afterwards? What do you want your career to look like afterwards? Do you want a career? I've worked with clients who have, a multi-million dollar marital estate and they're in their late 60s, they don't want a career. So, how you make decisions in your divorce is informed by what you want afterwards. I also work with a lot of women who are like, I've been sleeping on my ambition. I have been tampering it down to be more palatable to my husband or to the world. And I want to unleash that. And I want to make a ton of money in my own name and be my own source of financial security. Okay. Then, if you believe that's possible, it changes how you make decisions in your divorce. So, don't get divorced in a vacuum. Use your vision for your future as an anchor because it will help you get clarity on the decisions you're making in your divorce and make them faster, which saves you money, saves you time, and saves you suffering.
I think I see how this works when someone has career ambitions or career ideas. I think it's a lot more difficult when you have a woman who says, I was going to be a stay at home mom forever, and that's what I still want to do. And I hope he pays child support and alimony every month. Otherwise, we're not going to eat.
Mm.
And and I understand the desire to be that stay-at-home mom forever, but I think it's just not reality once you get divorced, and so why not find a passion for yourself that makes money?
Yes. So, to that woman who might be listening to this, the first step is going to be to allow all the grief to come up. You thought your vision that your future was gonna look one way, and it's all you could imagine, and you were wrong about that. Your brain mistook what the plan was gonna be. It was never gonna be that way, and you need to give yourself time to grieve that and to feel the loss of it because that's how you're gonna alchemize and transform that pain into power and purpose. So I'll say that first. And then, secondly, to that person, to that woman, you can find a career and you can make money in a way that aligns with a purpose or a passion or the impact you want to make and still feels very similar to being a stay at home mom. And wouldn't you want that? Like, don't you want to be in control of your money? Do you ever want to be at the mercy of a spouse again for your financial well-being? Nobody like our security doesn't really want to hang our hat on that. I don't want to have to depend on his career for my well-being. I wanted the freedom and the liberation and the security to be able to make choices based on my own financial power. Okay. People mistake me for a stay-at-home mom all the time because I'm at all my kids' things and I come to the class parties and I do every pickup and drop off. You can find a way to marry both. Third, I will say it's okay to start where you are and understand that you may not be able to see how you're going to jump right into that from where you are right now. It might take 3 steps, it might take 4 steps, it might take 3 years or 5 years. But if you knew you could have what you wanted in 5 years, wouldn't you make the investment?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the most dangerous things that women do in divorce is leaving their financial security in someone else's hands. And so child support and alimony are really important tools, and they are necessary for the support of the family. However, they could stop at any time. Your ex could die tomorrow and payments could completely stop. And then what? And so I'm constantly telling women, you need to start creating your own financial security. And that is having a source of income of your own that you control.
Yes, it's very hard to tap into your creative power, your creative flow when you are locked down in fear and survival. So, the work you do on your nervous system, the work you do on your mindset is going to help unlock that for you so that you can start playing and dreaming again. Most people in the midst of a divorce have that part of their brain completely shut off. And you can ask them to daydream or imagine like the best case scenario for their future, and they can't do it because they got to turn that part of their brain back on. So it's really important that you slow down to regulate your nervous system and work on your mindset so that you can start dreaming again, because that is coded with all the information that you need to tell you what to do next.
How can women make better financial decisions in their divorces?
Number 1, it's the vision as the anchor, right? Number 2, it's prioritizing your own opinion and being vulnerable enough to admit to yourself that you have one, and then be willing to feel the discomfort to speak up and tell the professionals what your opinion is. We are such people pleasers, and we're so accustomed to taking what we can get rather than trying to get what we want, that most of us, it doesn't even occur to us that we should have a freaking opinion. So you got to know what your opinion is. You have to anchor it in your future vision. And then you have to be willing to feel what sometimes is really intense discomfort, especially if you are a stay at home mom and you're now working with all of these very fancy looking professionals with titles and letters after their names. These people work for you and they want to help you. It helps them to know your opinion, and it helps inform the process next. So you have to be willing to tell them what your opinion is and feel whatever discomfort and be willing to advocate for that even if you are really uncomfortable doing it.
I see so many women in their divorces saying, I want X in my divorce, and my attorney says, I'll never get that. And I say, what is the reasoning why you would never get that? And I'm expecting to hear the state law says, or the circumstances of your divorce are this, and that impacts that. But most of the time, the answer I get when I say, why are you unable to get that? Why does your attorney say that? They say, I don't know.
Mm.
Oh, please, I want you to ask, why? What is the reasoning? And if the reasoning is the state law says this, or judges usually don't grant this, they grant something else, you can start having a conversation back and forth with your attorney about, okay, well, I wanted this, but if state law says that's not available to me, what could I get instead?
I have never worked with a client where the answer to that question was the state law just doesn't allow it. It is always the attorney says, I've just never seen that happen. That
Right?
just doesn't happen. Or they don't offer an explanation at all. Now, I'm always curious, okay, does it never happen because no one ever asks for it? Does it
Right?
happen because someone's asking for it from scarcity and fear and it's totally out of alignment with, everything else happening in the divorce? I have had so many clients, myself included, ask for and go for things that don't make sense because nobody's ever seen it happen before, and then they get it. Because almost always always the women I work with, I'm guessing most of your audience too, your desires and what you want are so aligned with a certain level of integrity and morality. Like, I just don't encounter women who are like, I'd like to take them all for what he's worth. And like, I want what's not mine. And like, that's just not what we want. We're trying to seek some sort of fairness or justice through this
Right.
process. And attorneys, because they sometimes get locked into that scarcity and lack mindset where they're just used to having to over compromise in order to settle something or avoid conflict. They're just not used to asking for these things. And so the worst that can happen is you don't get it. But if you
Right.
want to ask for it, you have to be willing to tell your attorney, I understand you don't think it's possible, but I would like for you to advocate for it anyway.
Oh my gosh, I love that language. I get so disheartened with how often I hear women say, my husband spent $50,000 on his affair partner, and I asked my attorney if we could get that money back, and my attorney said, "Judges don't wanna hear about that," or, "It doesn't make sense to go after that," or, "No, we'll never get it." Hold on a second. We have proof. We have account statements that show very clearly he spent $50,000 on his affair partner while we were married. Why on God's green earth are we not asking for that money back? But I see attorneys not want to pursue the issue because it's not an easy issue. It's not a slam dunk issue. It takes some work to prove up the numbers. Oh, well.
That's right. Now, listen, you might want to take that into account depending on how much money you're talking about, right? And the legal
Sure.
fees it's going to cost and the time it's going to take, right? If if you knew, let's say you're ambitious and you know exactly what you want to do and you're going to go for it even if you're making no money during your divorce and you're going to make millions of dollars after it's over. Do you want to spend of this amount of money and the time and the lost opportunity costs fighting over $20,000? The answer is probably no. So you really have to I want you to like back up and have some really good perspective. Is it worth the legal fees, the time, the lost opportunity costs and the delay, right? Cuz it's delaying being done with the divorce and moving on to other opportunities. Is it worth it to you? If the answer is yes, then you know. But if the answer is no, then it's okay to let it go even if someone else is telling you you shouldn't. I've had that happen too. So it really comes back to connecting with yourself and your belief and your anchor in the future vision and what it is you really want. And then going for it unapologetically because you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to be justified. You don't need to keep over explaining yourself. You can want what you want, and that's a full sentence.
I also want to say you don't necessarily have to fight and do the whole fight over this thing. You can make the ask. I want to be reimbursed for what he spent on his affair partner. And if it looks like it's going to take a massive fight to push that issue, you can then make the decision, okay, I don't want the fight. I asked, I tried to get it. I don't want the fight. I move on. Like this is like we can be strategic and we can try things and then decide we're not going to continue pursuing them in our divorce. It is okay.
That is such a good point. Yes. Sometimes you have to start down the road to collect the data so that you can make another informed decisions. So
Mhm.
it's decision, action, collect the data, decide again, act again, collect the data, and you are allowed to pivot at any given point down the road. But sometimes we need more information before we can decide, and
Mhm.
that's okay. You don't have to decide in a vacuum.
I love it. What happens if we do disagree with our divorce attorney, with our divorce coach, or our financial advisor is helping us with the divorce? What does the woman who disagrees with the professionals do?
Get uncomfortable and stand up for yourself. But because oftentimes, at least in the work that I do with clients, what I see is the woman is recreating this weird dynamic she had with her ex, usually around money. So, like, there's some gatekeeper energy around money, and like, you're not really sure what you're talking about, and I know better, and you're not great with money. And so she'll defer to him or she did in the marriage, right? She just wasn't willing to fight that fight. And that how we do one thing is how we do everything. So that dynamic will sneak its way back into your relationship with your professionals. And pretty soon you got an old white guy saying, "Well, you're never gonna get that, and I'm not asking for it." And you have to break the pattern. You have to break your dynamic of deferring to somebody and outsourcing your power and opinion to someone who you don't even really know, and be willing to say, "Hi, this is what I want. If you're not willing to do this, I may have to consider." Not that you would threaten them, but you may consider hiring someone else. The professional's job is to listen to you, not to be your therapist. That's not what they're there. Please don't pay them to be your therapist. And they don't want that job and they're terrible at it. They can barely manage their own emotions. But if they're not going to listen to what you want in the scope of their work, then you need to decide if you want to keep working with them.
I love that. Let's talk about your coaching program called the Divorce Accelerator. Tell me a little bit of what that's about.
Yes. So the Divorce Accelerator has been folded into what I'm calling the Advanced Divorce Academy now. And it's a monthly membership where you can come and you get short form audio and video modules on every topic under the sun. So, from emotional empowerment to vision work and decision making to the legal process to parenting. And you get access to that portal. You get access to my private podcast where I get a little more personal and do deep dives on certain topics. And you get, a monthly coaching call calendar. And that's, you can come in and out, it's cancel anytime, and you get instant access to everything. It will completely transform the way that you're approaching your divorce.
And we, of course, are going to link to your website, your social media, and to this free workshop. So everything we've talked about today, people can get access to. Meagan Norris, thank you so much. You have given us a boatload of wisdom today, and I'm so appreciative.
Thanks for having me. I've loved being here.